Happy to see so many of you here today. I'll start by admitting one thing. I'm not at all prepared for this, but I make up for that by the fact that I kind of go through these things every day in my job, and I hope I can do a good job of introducing you to what Pantheon is and what the agencies I work with are trying to do, or why they come to us and what they're doing, what kind of workflows they're using. My name's Omar Bickell. I've been doing Drupal since, I created my online profile on Drupal.org 14 years ago, and that was actually a couple years after I started doing, I launched my first Drupal site in fall 2001, which is pretty much as early as you could possibly be using Drupal. I was the co-founder of, one of the co-founders of Kumbit, which was one of the first Drupal shops in Canada. It's an organization that still exists here in Montreal. I worked for Acquia for a little bit. I've worked for municipal governments, federal government, and now for the last couple of years, and then Linux Foundation for a while. Now the last couple of years, I'm with Pantheon. Pantheon is this company. I didn't end up there by accident. As a freelancer, as a consultant, I had personally decided to standardize all my sites as much as possible on Pantheon for some of the reasons we're going to see here today. And it was only later on that I got a job there, and I wanted to get a job there, A, because I liked their tool and I believed in it, and B, because I liked the people who started it and the culture that they were creating. So let's get into it. I was going to steal this presentation by a colleague of mine, but you see it's really long and I was going to have to learn a whole bunch of how to follow it. But I'm going to give him some credit here. David Needham is another colleague of mine at Pantheon, and he prepared this presentation, and I will go through a few of the elements. There's many kinds of ways that hosting can be set up, and generally what you're wanting to do, what your goal is to find a balance between the perfect sophisticated platform and the affordable price that your client is going to be able to pay. You're looking for a solution where when you need support, you can get it easily, and something that you can maintain, and you can maintain today and tomorrow. And what I mean by that is that it's not dependent on this one person who's highly skilled in your organization and was able to figure it out today, but then you lose them exactly because they're highly skilled and can go somewhere else and maybe get paid more. And so you want to be able to have kind of institutional reliability, like the ability to rely on this being maintainable for you going forward. Here's just a few basic hosting setups. Shared hosting where you're just one site on shared boxes. You have the noisy neighbor problem, where if one site gets popular, all the other sites are kind of suffer for it. You have the problem of each one of those sites being special snowflakes, so you don't have tools to allow you to propagate updates across many sites easily. Single VMs, again, they have a lot of utility virtual machines. They allow you to configure all kinds of stuff in there, but before you know it, you have to you're back to being a sysadmin or needing system administration skills to keep those images up to date and working. And you still have this notion of there's different VMs, and at some point you need more of them, and there's slowness to spinning up new ones and having them speak to each other. Then on the right here we have this kind of like clustering model where you could have multiple app servers, and you could add more app servers to this model very quickly and easily. And that's kind of more along the lines of a modern setup. And so I'm not going to try and go through all his slides. This is a schematic of kind of Pantheon's setup, where we have all these things where you have kind of easily maintainable, that we actually maintain these containers for you. You don't even have to, but as on an infrastructure level, they all speak to each other in a very seamless process. I'm going to skip through some of this. I will mention that the benefit of our platform, there's a few of them. One is over time we keep adding goodies to it that just because we have such a standardized platform, we can just add stuff and they're available to everybody. So recently this year we added what we call global CDN. It's basically an integration with Fastly. So you all get Fastly for every single account on Pantheon. You don't have your own login to Fastly. You don't have a customizable CDN, but you are getting a global distribution network for your content. We also have added, as you see on the top one, HTTPS termination. So we now have Let's Encrypt. So no more worry. So everybody gets HTTPS, and you don't even have to worry about renewing certificates or your site going down when you forgot to do so. So everybody's getting that. And this is just goes to kind of demonstrate a little bit of the advantage of us having such a standardized platform where if we can give it to one, we can give it to everybody. And so as I mentioned, I worked for other companies in the past, similar in nature to Pantheon. One of those companies, basically, if you pay them enough money, they'll say yes to anything. And problem is, supporting that is impossible, because everybody's a special snowflake. And that's the problem we don't have at Pantheon. You do have to fit into our box. We are what you call, quote, opinionated. We kind of impose certain opinions on how to do things. But because of that, level 1 support can generally answer all your questions. Because of that, we have documentation on all the things. Because of that, our documentation is actually useful. And if it's not, we care deeply about fixing it, because if we can fix it for you, it will be fixing it for everybody. You're not just a special snowflake. So I could go on and on about these things. Well, why don't I? A little bit more here. So one of the things you get, this isn't at all service levels, but you get Redis object caching. So Redis is, I didn't even know this before I started at Pantheon. It's caching for your database. So particularly useful if you have lots of authenticated sessions, because the DB is often the bottleneck in Drupal, and so that's a great thing. And really, it's a couple steps to enable it, and very painless process. Again, for sites that aren't at the very basic level, we also offer Solar. So these aren't add-ons. Once you're at that level, you can just enable these things as you wish. Valhalla is our file store, and it's able to kind of work, despite the fact that you have multiple containers. The files are served and cached properly. So like I said, I don't want to go through all these things, and I didn't really prepare so well to know exactly what I did want to go through, but this is one of them. So the basic model, like once upon a time, we were all kind of, well, it depends. I'm old enough. I remember the days when we were, cowboy coding. There was no such thing as a dev site and a test site. There was just the site, and you would work on it and try to not break it for a long time, because you were going to break it when you did something, and you just tried to break it not for a long time, and that would be called maintenance period. Anyway, very quickly, once, we've evolved now, and to where any serious process has to have staging. And so on Pantheon, you get that out of the box. For every site, you get dev, test, and live environments. And so the notion here, the reason there's kind of arrows in this diagram is you have code, which generally always comes in. You can circumvent this, but we're trying to impose a workflow model on you. If you want to work around it, we like it. We're there for basic users and power users who want to do things however they want. But the general model we're promoting here is that code always goes through dev, up through test, and into production. So any code coming into this process comes in dev and then gets pushed up through the pipe. Content, however, generally comes down from prod. And so when you're creating a test environment, what you're doing essentially is you're pushing code up from dev to test, and you're pulling the content, the DB, down from prod, and you're getting this environment where you can work. So the title of this session was Agency Workflows. Well, this is kind of one basic workflow that's being highlighted here. That you have a workflow for code going up, you have a workflow for content edits to be able to constantly be made, and environments to test. When I say environments, plural, to test, I'm going to now jump to what you see on the left here, these three bubbles, Dev 1, Dev 2, Dev 3. So in Pantheon, you'll see we have, let's see if I have it on mine. So there's one thing I wanted to show here. Okay, let me just open up another one. So I got to be slightly careful here because these are real things, and there's probably connection codes that I don't want to be stored on video on YouTube, or personal details. But you see, like I said, this is the kind of the dashboard for my site, my blog that hasn't been updated in 20 years or 10 years, whatever. Literally, probably 5 years hasn't had a single post on it. And I have a test environment, I have a dev environment, test environment, a live one. I have a MultiDev. Now, so this is where, for those of you who are more into Git and all this, and the back end of all this is Git. If you know Git, you can use your command line Git, yes. If you don't know Git, you don't have to know Git. And that's what I love. I love the Pantheon's platform for people who like to click their way through everything, but also enables the people who like to command line their way through everything, and allows teams that have a mix of each to work together seamlessly. I happen to be a guy who can tweak code, can commit code, and all that stuff. I can read it, whatever. But no, if I can click my way through something, I like that. I'm still into that, and we'll try a live demo, see if it works later on something I haven't even tested on this particular case. We'll see if I break my blog on the way. So what do I want to say here? I wanted to say, so MultiDev, this is essentially what, if you're a Git folk, you might call Git branches. So that's what this does. It'll create a multi-dev environment, it'll create a whole new environment, and where you'll be able to test it, you'll be able to see it live, you'll have URLs for everything, and then when you're happy, you can merge back the code, and there's the little diagrams, the merge kind of diagrams, and that'll bring it into dev, which then you can push up to live and to test and live. Let's do something here. So, like I said, I'm just kind of winging it. Interrupt me anytime with questions. Like now is fine. Go ahead, yes.
Do you replace GitHub or Bitbucket in your workflow, or can you still use Bitbucket?
So you can still use them, so Pantheon does have its own Git repo, and for a long time that was the only way to kind of do things. At this point, though, we have made it possible to use Bitbucket or GitHub. In particular, this is often used for what we call custom upstreams. So custom upstreams, and this is how I'm going to do it, just improvise. Remind me to go back to the demo I wanted to do. So custom upstreams is the notion of having a single code base and many sites. Oh, you've heard of that before? Oh yeah, right, that's Drupal multi-site. Yes, but no. That's Site Factory. Yes, but no, absolutely not. The problem with those two other models is that it's essentially the same machine, the same site, that everything's tied together. In this case, you could have your code base on GitHub. You're mapping Pantheon to that. You can create new site, like create new sites, and it'll use that code base to spin up sites. But ultimately on Pantheon, they are not Drupal multi-sites. They are independent sites. You can, and then if you click, if you do an update to your code base, you'll get in the dashboard for each of those sites, you'll get a big yellow button saying, hey, update available, click to apply. But you'll have that button for each and every site. And if one of them breaks, you revert that one, and all the others can still proceed and be updated. And what else I want to say about that? So they're all independent. And of course, though, what if I do have 50 sites? Do I really have to go and click the yellow button 50 times? Well, no, because we have command line tools where everything that you can do through clicking in the interface, you can do through our tool called Terminus. And that's also, it's also via Terminus that you would do your drush commands. So Terminus, drush, blah, blah, blah. Yes, sir?
So if I'm following you, it's like I'm an agency and I want to have like a new workflow that I can manage for like dev, stage, live. I just purchased this package at Pantheon, and it's available for web agencies. Is that correct?
So the question is somehow if I need a workflow, well, I'm not sure I really got it, but let me try and answer it without repeating the question. You don't have to be an agency to get and use a workflow. Every single site on Pantheon comes with this notion of every site having a dev, a test, and a live environment. And what I guess I'll do the demo now about what that means in terms of code. And so let's look at this. So here is Omar. Here's an organization. It's actually my company. It's got 3 sites right now on that it's allowed to touch. One of them's my blog. I click on that, it opens up my dashboard. I think normally it'll end up on code here. And then I got my view development environment, so I can go in there. I can log in. If I log in at some point, I'll be on I'll be here, for example. Remember, this thing was originally a Drupal 5 site. It's now, I don't even know what this is. I think it's the 7 at this point, but I haven't done anything with it in ages. And so then I check out my modules, see what's happening there. Hey, let's see if I got any updates available. And this is really live. Cross your fingers. Oh, there's a link update. So let's see, what would it take to apply that? Now, there's a couple ways I could do this. I could go in my Terminus, drush, update, and I could do all that, just download or update. Or I can, I have other workflows. Let's say I'm a clicky click kind of guy. Well, I'll point out that we have these 2 development modes, SFTP and Git. So one thing you don't have, which is an adjustment, you don't have SSH access to anything. So you have drush through Terminus, And we give you a couple other tools you can access, but it's not SSH. We're kind of boxing you in on that, but in order to be able to give you a lot more with the other hand. So I'm going to switch over for the moment to SFTP mode, because that's a mode I need to be able to demo this clicky click thing. If it doesn't work, I'll just tell Kevin not to publish this video, so be safe. But I think we should be good. So I'm just waiting for this to switch to the other development mode, which is going to allow me then to go back to my site and say, okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to say, go ahead, and so, oh wait. I have backups. They happen automatically every day. If what I'm about to do completely messes up, I will just have to click a restore button to get the backup, to restore the site. But let's just hope it doesn't. So sometimes when I'm feeling confident, I'll select all. There'll be a whole bunch of modules here, and I'll just, you know what, it's my blog. I can do what I want here. Download these. Okay, back up your DBs. Sure, yeah, I did that. Well, I did. Okay, warning. I should read that. Migrate D to D, 1 pending update, apply pending updates. Okay, let's go to the front page. Still alive, I guess, right? I don't know, kind of looks okay. I could click around a little bit more. Obviously, we can get into the automated testing and stuff that are possible right now. I'm talking about just a basic clicky click thing. So then let's say, okay, I'm done. It looks like it didn't break anything. Let's see what happens. I go back here. Oh, look, there's something's changed here. It's essentially a git status right here. A git status. There's just some changes available. Oh yeah, what did I do? I updated. Via what did I update? What was it? Link module, and so I can see it all there. Updated link module. Let's commit that. So, by the way, if ever there was, if there's a new update to Drupal, you would just show up here, and there would already be a button here saying, "Hey, apply Drupal core update," or a patch for Drupal type button. So no changes to commit because I applied that. So I just applied that to dev. Now if I go to my test environment, now it says, hey, there's something in development environment that you could pull over here. Are you ready to bring this to QA, those changes from dev? Sure. And then when I do that, what should I do? Should I go ahead and pull the files in the DB from the live environment because that's the true test, right? A test environment should have the content coming down, the code coming up. Yeah, sure, that sounds good. Of course, remember I manually clicked on the update PHP thing in that last step? Well, no, go ahead and run that automatically for me and make sure to clear all those caches because, that's important. So I'm just going to click my way through that. And anyway, you kind of get the picture. Yes?
What happens when you get conflicts?
It'll give you a message on that, and it'll give you some hints as to how to resolve that. At the end of the day, there's no magic. I mean, merge conflicts are merge conflicts. There's going to be some pain there sooner or later. But yeah, it will give you some hints as to options you can use for stepping through and resolving those conflicts. Yeah.
Do you do the Drush config import also, or is it possible to have the Drush config import?
So is it possible to have, the answer to that, I hate those, is it possible? I mean, everything's possible. Now, so let me tell you how you go about doing something like, the question was, to add a Drush content import or config import. So, like I said, everything that you can do through clicking in this interface can be done through command line. You can script therefore, all those steps and add whatever you want.
But there's not the click button to do the garage config.
No, there's not that. What else? There are many other, there are the plugins to Terminus also. Terminus is our command line. Pantheon. Terminus manual, extend with plugins. Extend with plugins, internal plugin. Come on, show me the directory of plug. There it is. So there's a whole bunch of plugins that enhance what you can do with Terminus. So build tools, composer, like using all these other things. Let's say you have a lot of, like we just showed that there is an SFTP mode, so you can actually connect with SFTP. Normally you'd click on a button to say, show me my connection strings. That's what I don't want recorded on video here. And then copy that. But hey, if I'm working on different sites all the time, that's a pain in the butt extra step. Well, there's this filer module here. So you would do Terminus install filer. You would get this plugin, and then you could say filer Omar's blog dev. I'm not even sure I have to say dev there, and it would spin up my SFTP client and give me and have me logged in. And then there's similarly for other for like DB connections and stuff like that. There's options here. What I want to call out for a moment here is this one called Quicksilver. So Terminus is the command line interface for sending commands to Pantheon. The other way around, when you want Pantheon just to call out to other services, that would be what we call Quicksilver. So, for example, for every site on Pantheon, up until now, every single site on until recently, every single site on Pantheon got New Relic. So, for those of you who might not know, New Relic is this amazing interface for monitoring not interface tool for monitoring your site's traffic. So let's look at Omar, not traffic, but behavior. So this is how popular my site is. I don't have any traffic on it to show you anything here. So this might be kind of hard to demo this very much, but it's a really amazing tool for debugging your site. And so you have transaction traces. It shows you your slow modules, your slow hooks, your slow views, database connections, external services, whole 9 yards. So let's imagine though that I'm looking at the performance of my site here, and I want to know if the code pushes that I'm making are helping or hurting the performance. So you can use Quicksilver to say, hey, Pantheon, every time I push code to test or to live or wherever, I want you to tell New Relic to add a line in my chart right then. So I can see whether things got better or worse before and after that line right there. Those are what we call deployment markers. And so using this Quicksilver, to get this Quicksilver plugin, you would say Terminus install Quicksilver, and then to use this Quicksilver plugin to add this deployment marker functionality. This plugin is basically a plugin to help you implement Quicksilver recipes. And to get the deployment markers, you'd say Terminus Quicksilver install deployment markers, site name, environment, and that's basically it. All you'd have to, I think you have to create a file so it captures the output of that command, but that's about it. So now I'm going around. Where were we? We were deployment markers. So that's Quicksilver, but let's think about what else you might be doing with that. So your thing might be like, okay, that's one of the steps you want to automate there is the config file stuff. But you might also, so we have another Quicksilver recipe, which is, hey, so Drupal comes out, or there's vulnerable modules all the time. How fast can you patch that? How fast will the exploit be out in the wild? And so now, so even almost a year and change ago, we already demoed at DrupalCon publicly available recipe for automated security updates using visual regression. So every hour, check to see if the website will check to see if there's an available update. If there is an available update, spin up a MultiDev in this brand new environment. Remember that kind of branch there. Tell Circle CI, use Quicksilver, calling Circle CI to generate some screenshots. You use your testing tool to generate some screenshots of a bunch of URLs. Apply the update. Take the same screenshots again. And if 0% change, then deploy that thing. It's a security update. It's not supposed to change much usually. It's supposed to just protect from cross-site scripting or something. And anyway, so when this was a relatively simple recipe. Once you knew what you were doing, you could implement this on a new site within half an hour or something. That's a really sexy kind of proposition to be able to make to clients. Obviously, with anything powerful, there's potential complications. Like the version we demoed presumed that there was no developer changes also in parallel. So there's more to work on in terms of just adapting it to your particular workflow. So that's one of the other Quicksilver, and so that's a workflow, right? We talked the title of this session was Agency Workflows. Well, that's kind of like getting towards the holy grail of the workflows, and where when you're doing and so some of these others Quicksilver recipes are when you do a pull request on GitHub, initiate the automated MultiDev and the QA, the Circle CI to QA, and Quicksilver tell Slack, post to Slack, hey QA team, time for you to click through and make sure you're happy with this, or user acceptance testing type thing. I gotta say, when I first started, when I was just a freelancer all on my own, clicking around here, of course I'm barely thinking Terminus, I'm definitely not thinking Quicksilver yet. I'm just thinking, wow, look at this. I got kind of three environments. One's the live one, and I've got kind of two test kind of environments. I got dev and test. There is kind of a more formal logic with test being the real test there, but basically at any point in time, if I was worried about screwing up the DB on test, I could clone it to live at any point in time. You have the ability to clone down, clone up your DBs in any direction, and so I would make sure I always kind of had a pseudo backup that way. That's probably not even a recommended thing that I should be talking about here. Okay. What else do I want to say? Let's look at his slides here a second. So, SFTP, project setup. Well, yeah, so a couple things. One thing I could demo, I'm afraid maybe my personal account technically will maybe not allow me to set up a new site, create a new site, but it's going to tell me my quotas at the limit. But it's a clicky-click process to create a whole new site. I mean, I could try this DrupalCamp demo, see if that does anything. Site name, DrupalCamp demo, GC demo. Oh boy. Okay. Well, looks like we can. So anyway, on the one hand, this idea that I can create a new site easily. If I have a new developer coming on, I can add them to my project in no time flat. If they need a new environment to test out a little feature, they can create a multi-dev for themselves, and they get the full-on kind kind of experience and access to it. And now we just had a session before me talking about Lando. So with Pantheon is currently in internal testing on what is essentially Pantheon's flavor of Lando that's about to come out. Basically, you will just be able to, I'm not going to demo it because as far as I know, I definitely don't want to be the first one to reveal screenshots of this if the company hasn't done that yet. But I will kind of give you a hint. You double click to install, you take you go to your user page on Pantheon, you generate a machine token, like a unique kind of token, copy that, paste it into this tool called Pantheon Local Dev, and boom, you have a representation of all the sites you have access to that you can then work on locally and sync to and from the cloud with. And so in terms of getting a new teammate on board and up to speed, it's pretty brain dead easy at that point to be able to do that.
And will you be able to edit those files to change the configuration?
Yeah, so it's local development, as in full-on file, full-on DB, and then sync your changes up with the mothership. Pantheon does not use the term mothership, just for so that's me. So that means you're able to set up your projects easily. You're able to set up environments for developers really easily. You're able to essentially share your code bases and if you like GitHub, you can be on GitHub if you're into all those tools and approaches. Feature branching, we looked at, it was the MultiDev setup. Performance tweaking, well, I barely introed the fact that we have New Relic on all these things. And New Relic, so I didn't really get into it very deep, but I'll show you one little thing on this just to give you a flavor of it. And so I look at transactions here. I mean, this, I gotta say, there's just no data here. Nobody's touched the site except for me this one time. And so I'm not, normally on the left there'd be a whole bunch of transactions. And it's just because a bad example, but I don't want to show you a client's example because that would be wrong. But let's look at this transaction. Let's imagine we think, oh, what is this thing? This is actually an internal thing. But let's say, what is it? Oh, well, there's no trace. Too bad. I guess I just don't have enough data to show you. You'd be able to, where it says no traces down. Oh wait, this last 3 minutes. Hold on, let's see what we got in the last 7 days. Maybe we got something more. Well, like I say, even 7 days, probably not much. Okay, so let's say, oh wow, this one looks long. Like, of course, if you see something that most time consuming, it's way longer than the others, that's probably something you want to dig into. If you could shave 10% off something, that's what you want it to be off of, maybe. So I'm going to click into that, and I could look into what's happening here, cache set, bootstrap, whatever. Again, it's just another representation of, still no traces here. Because otherwise it'd be like one example where somebody hit my map page or something like that, and you would see the path there, and then click on it, and then you'd be able to get to where you see the whole stack trace, and you get to see where like in red maybe, where the delay is happening there. So again, this is just example trying to quickly go through some of the goodies that you get is tools to analyze and identify performance improvements. Add in people. So new team members, somebody comes on. Let's just say, well, if I wanted a new person, I could just add, whoops, I got some personal addresses in there I didn't want to share. I don't care about my Omar one. But anyway, I could just add the email address there if they're already on Pantheon. This site will get added to their user dashboard. If they're not on Pantheon, I'll give them an invite to sign up. Or let's say you got an agency working for you. You can just add that agency. If they create an agency profile, an organization on Pantheon, you add that agency as a supporting agency. That way you don't have to manage who's going to have access to your site. They can add and remove users on their side, and you've just given them the right to kind of make those manage that for you. So the ability to add and remove users really easily. Like I mentioned, I'm going to skip over launch delays. Core updates. Like I already mentioned, the fact that if there is a core update, it's going to be a big yellow button on your site dashboard in the dev environment, and then third-party tools like New Relic and others, and we'll be adding more in the future. And new environments, again, you can just spin up environments pretty easily. Let me go back through a few more of these things, what this looks like. Another thing I really like is the status check. It tends to work best on, the Drupal 7 gives you a lot of things. So, oops, look at this. I am apparently, I have not implemented FAST 404 properly here. So this is, you might have heard, it's kind of the site audit module. So it's a health check thing. This is saying, oh look, I've also got some duplicate entries, on some of these modules. Generally shouldn't have duplicates. And there's other things, like if I had Devel on, it would tell me, hey, don't have Devel. In fact, so I'm looking at the dev environment. I'd normally probably care more about looking at the checks on the live environment. It depends, but you got the checks on all three of them. What else we got here? I showed you status already. Security. So yeah, this is kind of the equivalent of HT access. That's kind of what it's going to do, is implement HT access for you there. Backups we already looked at a little bit. Oh, that's why they were grayed out before, because I was in the dev environment, not the live environment, where the database kind of really does live. But you can back up the others as well. Yeah, the ability to just add domains really quickly, easily, and metrics. For what it's worth, this is probably not going to be very impressive, but anyway, these are metrics as we see based on our CDN. So really, with all this, you can have sites that are, you have HTTPS, you have monitoring and performance analysis tools, you have a global CDN, and all that for less than like a fraction of what you're probably paying on your cell phone bill for a site. And so I know this is kind of a sales pitch, and I allow myself to do that because, like I said, as a freelancer, I had kind of opted to standardize all my stuff on Pantheon before I started there. I think this is a really interesting value proposition for people and that you should consider. So I could stop now because I've been rambling on for, gosh darn it, near an hour. So how about some any other questions? No. Is this what's missing for you? What could be better? Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
How do you manage IP addresses and reverse DNS?
So we're doing the reverse proxy stuff for you, all the cache. If you needed a fixed IP for outgoing, we have a solution for that. But generally, we don't, and so you don't get. So you don't manage IPs. If you want to know, like here, let's look at this domain here. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I'm sorry. I meant to look at. So this is showing the entries that it's detecting and the entries that we recommend for you to copy into your DNS.
Where is the data? Where's the data centers?
So right now, we recently moved to Google Cloud.
Okay.
So at the moment, I believe we're in the Chicago data center. We're working on soon, will likely be in a second data center. I believe that it will likely be in Europe to begin with. But once we're on Google Cloud, and we're really excited to leverage a lot of the possibilities that that's going to bring to us. And so you could expect multiple other data centers eventually as well. For Canadian audiences, sometimes there's a concern about hosting south of the border. I do know for a fact that very often people think that they're not allowed to do it when they are, that some of those concerns are overblown. Sometimes they really are legitimate. There's actually strict requirements about that, and that's something that we'll be looking at further down the line. Yes, sir?
So you're on Google Cloud, so that's your interface over Google Cloud, or your...
So Google Cloud, so just say Google Cloud's just kind of infrastructure provider. So they give you the hardware and the networking and some tools to manage that stuff, your usage of those things. All this in it, but then we actually have all our own systems that we've configured and written, and tools and all the stuff that runs on top of that infrastructure. So they're an infrastructure and cloud services organization provisioning platform, and we're a website management platform. Is really what it is. What's missing? What do you need to? Why would you hesitate to use this? Challenge. I mean, and this is I want to know what we need to do better. Go ahead.
Can you talk about price?
Sorry?
Pricing?
Pricing. I can show you pricing. So Pantheon recently, I think I just do pricing. Can I spell today? Apparently not. So actually, what I'm going to tell you about right now, I will tell you about something. So $35 a month is what you get on that's the intro level. And then the middle level ranges a lot, because if I click on the blue area there, the performance plans, there's actually a wide variation. The main thing about why you will pick one level or another is just the sizing. Just for performance, we'll have more power on the higher level platforms, but also some of the support services that you'll get at the higher tiers. This, I will point out that we care a lot about agencies and what we're going to provide. So right now you see this on the left, at $50 per month, striked out, introductory price $35 a month. Pretty soon, as an individual coming to Pantheon, the price for a basic plan will be $50 a month. Which, yeah, if you compare that to Bluehost or something, that seems like a lot. Now, you're not getting all the tools we just talked about with Bluehost. But also, I think it reflects that our primary market audience is web developers and agencies who are going to be building many things. We want you as a web developer to fall in love with our platform and want to do all your stuff there. And so what this says, after, like I said, soon, the price for mom and pop showing up here getting is going to be $50. But they can still get the $35 a month deal if they work through an agency or a partner. And to be able to qualify for that, it's going to be a pretty low bar. If you have like just a handful of sites on our platform, you got it. And that means that you'll be able to turn around and say, oh no, look, you want a good deal on Pantheon? I can give you a good deal on Pantheon. You got to go through me, but I can give you a good deal. And by the way, as a web developer, not only can you give them that goodie, but then next time when they need a change on their site, they might ask you first, right? You kind of have it's kind of a feed for being able to provide additional services on top of that. So these are some pricing here. So you see that you need to go to the middle tier to get the Solar and the Redis and the new Relic at this point. as well. This traffic overage protection, what this says here is we don't want you to pick your plan based on the once a year peak that you might hit. Or we don't want to penalize you if you suddenly go viral on social networking. And we're not going to stop the traffic because you passed your quota. If it's an every month thing, then yes, we'll want you to size appropriately. But if we don't want to penalize you for occasional success. So if you're a Black Friday type operation, that's fine. You can just pick to your standard traffic, pick your level according to your standard traffic. Admittedly, some of these higher plans, yeah, I'm not paying that for my blog, that's for sure. But at that point, you're talking about serious traffic sites, and clients who have sites like that can afford to pay a little bit more. Especially at that point, you're talking about teams maintaining these things, and so you need these kind of tools to keep all that flowing. And here's the other point. I've worked in shops where they spend 50% of their developer time maintaining their DevOps infrastructure. That's so much time is spent doing that, and it takes forever for code to get through because they got so many steps and they're maintaining all the steps, and there's so much manual stuff involved. That's what Pantheon's trying to free you up from that kind of maintenance to go and do work on actually making the site better. Well, thanks for sitting through that. I know it was a sales pitch. I hope it kind of it opens your eyes, though, to what we think the value is that's out there, and I'll be interested in hearing how you think that satisfies your needs or how it misses them, and we still need to make it better. That's my daily job, is meeting with our biggest clients and talking about how they're doing things and how we could do things better going forward. Thank you very much.